Okay, great. I'm doing this primarily for absentees or people who will need to relook at this material because it is a little tricky from time to time. Preposizioni. First of all, you have to know the meaning of the prepositions, okay? We have the simple prepositions. As you can see in the book, they're called preposizioni semplici. And a is kind of versatile. It can mean at, it can mean to. Sometimes it can even mean in. When you say I am in Westerly, sono a Westerly, for example. So there's an example where a means in, but basically it's at or to. You got di, okay, that most of the time means of. It can sometimes mean from, actually. Prepositions are tricky because the meanings can change depending on the instance, and you have to learn those on a case-by-case basis. Da, from, okay. You got in, which is pretty predictable. Cosa vuol dire in? In, that's right, okay. And of course we have su, and su is on. And then there are many more prepositions, but we'll just stick with these five, okay? For example, with is con, per, for, but I'll just stick to these prepositions. Again, these are called preposizioni semplici, simple prepositions. I believe those are the first ones there on page 179. Okay, but when you are reading or when you're speaking or when you're writing, when you're doing anything, you can hardly get through a sentence without using the next set of prepositions. They're called preposizioni articolate, literally an articulated preposition, meaning that it joins with the definite article. This happens constantly. You cannot say 3 sentences in a row without using one of these. So what we need to know, and this is where your Italiano Uno really comes into play. If you never really learned your prepositions, if you never really learned your definite articles, you are going to be at a very big disadvantage. Il, lo, l'apostrophe, la. The plurals, of course, would be e, ye, and lei. Okay, those are our 7. There's really 8 if you think of L apostrophe being for a masculine and a feminine. As the book kind of has it up in almost like a grid there, if we were to have an a or a di or a da or a in or a su, they join. Now this part, if you already took notes on this, feel free to just listen. But I'll just rattle these off real quick. As you can see, a plus il, it changes. Notice it becomes al. D and il becomes del. That di changes to a de. Da and il becomes dal. You'll see what this looks like more as we discover this in sentences. In plus il, nel. You saw this 2 days ago when we had class, and I said in the living room, nel soggiorno. So in il soggiorno became nel, okay, and su would be sul. On the table, su il tavolo. Su and il join, it becomes sul. Okay, so this is what we're talking about here when I say preposizioni articolate. I'm talking about this, okay? Now, I can fill this whole thing in, but I won't, but I'll just continue on a couple of them here. As you can see here, this would be allo, allo, dello. This might not be the exact order that it is in the book, but I think you can notice the pattern is the same. I might have flip-flopped the order of some of those, but don't let that freak you out. Notice the pattern behind it, okay? I ran out of room here. Let me just skip over to here, for example. If you had a plural, i.e., you know, give the papers to the students, i.e. studenti, for example. Here you would have dei, dai, nei, sui. Okay, so there you have it. Now, based on that chart that you've already done, that you've already written, or if you can just want to look at 179, now I want to give you just a couple examples, and they're very simple, but you can just figure this out. I'll just give you 8. We'll just do this quick. because you're going to see this in a moment in the context of an actual paragraph, and you're going to want to be able to rattle these off. So if I had, let's say, su, and then plus the next word would be a masculine singular like il, what is going to be the preposizione articolate in that case? Go ahead and write that down. This is the part that I want you to write down. If I had a da, and then I had the next word be a masculine plural word beginning with the definite article e, then what would it become? If I had an in plus a l apostrophe, okay, what's that going to become? If I had an a plus a la, okay, what's that one going to become? I'll make this a touch bigger for you, and I'll give you 4 more examples here. Let's say I had a su plus a lei. Give me what the preposizione articolate would be for that. If I had a da plus a lo, what would that become? Let's say if I had an in plus an I, e, what would that become? If I had an a plus a lei, what would that become? Give that a try for a moment. Okay. All right. Ragazze, what do we got for numero uno? Numero uno. Sì, that is correct, Signor Michele Sul. Grazie. Da plus e. You're going to have the preposition da. The next word would be beginning with a, it's a masculine plural word, so it would begin with an I, for example. It would become, if I join these two together, it's going to become? Grazie, grazie. Let me pull it from a couple of people. Anybody, anybody? Die, die. Die, okay? Senor James, in an L apostrophe becomes? That is right, 2 L's, double L that, okay? Make sure you put the double L there. And and la, la, double the L. The book mentions that this is a contraction. That's a little bit of a misnomer. It's not technically a contraction if you're adding letters, but in the sense of joining it, it is. It actually becomes bigger here because you double the L, just like you did here, double the L. Over here, sul and le would become sulle. For example, on the walls, sulle parete, sulle becomes one. You know, there are posters on the walls. Sulle parete, for example. Parete is a feminine plural word, le parete. Le pareti, in that case, it would be the plural, le pareti. Dallo becomes dallo, I just mentioned, double the L. In and e, this is one of these prepositions that it actually totally changes for sound reasons. So the N becomes in play. Nay. And my last one, alle. Okay, there you have it. Now, with this in mind, we are going to all do an activity. Those listening at home or absentees or extra help people, do this and over until you can master it and teach it to your little brother. And that is going to be exercise 611. 611, and we will listen and go over it in class. Grazie.